Hello everybody, thanks for coming out. Can everybody hear me? Okay. We are here today because our dear brother Bradley Manning, an Army PFC, was just sentenced to 35 years in federal prison for getting the truth out to the people of the world 3 years ago. He leaked thousands of documents, some crucial video footage to WikiLeaks. He has been under attack ever since, and so is WikiLeaks itself, and the people running that organization are under attack by the U.S. government for getting this truth out. Big questions come out. The key thing with Bradley Manning is he carried out his duty under international law to report war crimes. So what the other side always says, well, why didn't he report it to his chain of command? That's sort of what it says, right? Well, the problem is the chain of command is the problem. They are not the solution for these war crimes. They are complicit. They are actually ordering the main, leading, biggest war crimes, such as the invasion of Iraq, which set the terms for all the other crimes that are included in that. So a bunch of us are coming out today. We are demanding that Obama pardon him. We demand that Major General Buchanan, who runs the command that convicted Bradley, we demand that he end his sentence now. Bradley needs to be off with time served. He's a young soldier acting on his conscience. He's been under conditions amounting to torture, and this needs to stop now. This fight is just beginning. I want to quickly point out that there are petitions going around, one here. There is a national petition started called pardon.bradleymanning.org. That's on the internet. You can find it at the main bradleymanning.org website. We'll be marching up to Capitol Hill in a little bit. It so happens we go over a freeway overpass. We have all these nice banners, and we have people who like bannering freeways. So next, let me give you Jerry Condon. He's been at Bradley's trial, and he has a few things to say about that.
Hi, I'm Jerry Condon. I'm a member of Veterans for Peace, Chapter 92, and also on the Board of Directors of Veterans for Peace. Yes, I had the honor of being in the courtroom with Bradley Manning for the last couple of months, sitting only a few yards away from him. And it was kind of frustrating in a way because myself and a lot of other supporters, wanted to reach out and touch him and talk to him, but we couldn't do that. He's obviously a person of great integrity. It was very frustrating because he wasn't even allowed to turn around and look at his supporters, and we weren't allowed to approach him. Whenever there was a break, they'd have armed guards surrounding him. And I think even his defense team had kind of advised him, to be as disciplined as he could in the courtroom, which is what he did. He was very, very disciplined, very serious, showed a lot of respect for the proceedings, and of course, he's fighting for his life. I think it's good to review briefly what Bradley Manning actually did. What did he actually reveal to us? First of all, there was the collateral murder video. You've all seen that, I'm sure. Millions of people have seen that on YouTube. That's unarmed civilians in Baghdad being gunned down by U.S. soldiers from an Apache helicopter. Evidence of war crimes, which Bradley Manning revealed. Under international law, soldiers have the obligation to refuse to participate in war crimes and also to reveal evidence of war crimes. So that's exactly what Bradley Manning did. What else did he release? He released the Afghan war diaries and the Iraq war logs. These are daily event reports issued by the U.S. Army about different incidents that take place, military contact incidents. And what did they show us? That the killing of civilians in both Iraq and Afghanistan by our forces was virtually a daily occurrence. And the cover-up of that was also routine. Many, many more thousands of civilians were dying in Iraq and Afghanistan than we were being told. What else did we learn from the Afghan war logs? That our military leaders and our political leaders have been lying to us all along about the progress of the war in Afghanistan. And I talked to someone today who just returned from Afghanistan who told me they're still lying. This is not a war that, like Vietnam War, that we saw in the nightly news. It's far away. So what we were being given this rosy picture, while in fact the Army's own daily records show that every month the Army was in Afghanistan, things were getting worse, not better. The Taliban was getting stronger, not weaker. And that continues today. If people had listened to what Bradley Manning revealed to us over 3 years ago, we wouldn't still have U.S. soldiers being killed in Afghanistan today, and we wouldn't still be killing innocent civilians in Afghanistan today. So Bradley Manning absolutely did the right thing by sharing that information with us, and we're absolutely doing the right thing by standing with Bradley Manning and fighting for the truth and fighting to end those wars. What else did Bradley Manning reveal? The diplomatic cables. Well, some people say, why did he do that? What sense did that make? That's just our embassies trying to do the American business around the world. Well, what is the American business around the world? What it shows is a lot of very nefarious stuff, like the selling of arms, for one thing. That's the business that a lot of the embassies are involved with. The U.S. Embassy in Ireland was collaborating with the Irish government there to try to keep the Irish people in the dark when they were using Shannon Airport, a civilian airport in a neutral country, to transport 1 million U.S. troops back and forth between Iraq and Afghanistan, and also for CIA rendition flights. Okay, what else were the embassies up to that we learned from Bradley Manning's revelations? Well, our embassy in Haiti, the poorest country in the world, or one of them certainly, was pressuring the Haitian government not to raise the minimum wage, So basically what we learned from those is that our embassies are basically representing the interests of, guess who, the 1%, and not the American people. Bradley Manning also released the Guantanamo files, where we learned who was actually in Guantanamo, and that many of them have totally innocent. They haven't been charged because they're not guilty of any crimes. Many of them were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, or got sold for bounty to the U.S. military, and yet they've been in Guantanamo now for 11 years and counting, even while a bunch of the U.S. security agencies have already declared half of them eligible to be released, but they're still sitting in Guantanamo. And by the way, they're conducting a very long hunger strike there, as are prisoners in California, protesting against their indefinite detention and solitary confinement. So we learned a lot from Bradley, and it's not surprising that the U.S. government would decide that he's public enemy number one, because U.S. imperialism, like organized crime, operates much more efficiently in the dark, and Bradley Manning shed light on what they were doing, and that's why he's paying the price. I think that it's a sad day to see the truth locked up in jail when war criminals are walking free. At the same time, I think we should be proud of ourselves for standing with Bradley Manning, and it has made a difference. Let me just put things in perspective. He was charged with aiding the enemy, which carries the death penalty. The government said it wasn't going to seek the death penalty. They were trying to put him away for life without parole. We had a very strong legal defense and a very strong political defense around the world, and they were not able to convict him of that charge, even though they've convicted him of some ridiculous espionage charges. The 1917 Espionage Act, which, by the way, was used to quash anti-war protests and anti-draft protests against World War I. So it's not the first time that the Espionage Act has been used to quash dissent in this country, nor will it be the last. What else? Bradley Manning, after he was convicted of 20 of 22 counts, he was facing a possible 136 years in prison. That was 2 weeks ago. Okay, then his legal team successfully was able to get the judge to agree to combine several of the charges, so that brought his maximum sentence down to 90 years. So when we went to court a few days ago, the prosecution was acting for 60 years. So right from then we got life down to 60. What did he get today? 35 years. 35 years is outrageous. He shouldn't serve a day in jail, but it could be, in fact, a lot worse. And we're not giving up. We have a strong legal basis for appealing and overturning several of those charges. That would reduce his sentence even further. We're putting a lot of pressure on the command general right now to reduce his sentence. There's going to be a massive campaign to press President Obama to pardon him, and there'll be a variety of legal efforts to reduce his sentence. And I'm told, as of this morning, David Coombs, Bradley's lawyer, said in court that, or not in court, in a press conference, that Bradley could conceivably be eligible for parole as early as 7 years from now. So that's only possible because you are here, and because people all over the world today and many other days have been out in the streets for Bradley Manning. So I know that I heard that David Coombs in his press conference today said that he himself, the lawyer, was in tears after the sentence, and I'm going to be in tears too. But and other people were in tears, and Bradley was not in tears. Bradley said, "Don't feel bad. You did the best you could. I'm going to be okay." And Bradley will be okay, and we're going to keep on fighting for him until he's free. Thank you.
We have Devin up next. She's with a crew called Spying Silences Us. Well, she'll explain who they are. Okay.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming out. So I'm here representing a new startup group of activists who are working around resisting government repression of dissent, as well as mass blanket surveillance. We really see the trial of Bradley Manning as a major piece in this new upsurge against dissenters and whistleblowers, as well as against the American people for being informed about what their government is responsible for. Unfortunately, a lot of people still don't know who Bradley Manning is, and when you bring it up, there's a lot of misinformation that you really have to combat. And so one thing that I would just like to encourage everybody to do after today is just try to connect the dots for people about this, because while we're here to support Bradley Manning, this is about so much more than just his case. It's about having a right to a fair trial, first of all. The delay that happened for 3 years, the torture that he was put under, are heinous and symbolize a wider problem with our justice system in general. The fact that he was denied a court stenographer, everything that we know about this case, about what actually happened within the courtroom, came from people like Jerry who actually went and witnessed it, which is very limited for most people to do. Not everybody can devote 3 months to going to Fort Meade in order to be informed about what's happening in the military court system. I've been organizing with Spying Silences Us, actually crunched some numbers that were recently posted by Michael Moore, documenting all the different cases within the last 10 years against actual war criminals. And what we found is that the average time served for actually murdering people illegally in war is 1 year. 1 year on average served. Now that is heinous that Bradley Manning is serving 35 times that. It's heinous that he was proposed to serve 136 times that. I mean, I just don't know what to say beyond that. It really shows what our priorities are as this government, what this government's priorities are.
Okay, next, Jane from Answer.
Well, Bradley Manning is a hero, not a criminal. And he has nothing to apologize for. Nothing to apologize. He didn't cause any harm to anybody. Not a single person. So it's absolutely outrageous that he was prosecuted and has now been sentenced to even 35 years. It's an outrage. There are lots of people who ought to be in prison instead of Bradley Manning. The previous speaker said that some people have served 1 year for war crimes. There are plenty of people, and I'm going to name a few, who are serving 0 years for war crimes. Let's start with, George W. Bush. What about, all right, come on, George W. Bush, what do we say? Boo. All right, what about Dick Cheney? Boo. Boo. All right, and then here's some other people. Oh, yes, Henry Kissinger. Yeah, war criminal from way back. And now let's stray into the domestic front. What about George Zimmerman? Shouldn't he be doing time? What about Johannes Maserli, the man who killed Oscar Grant, the cop? Shouldn't he be doing time? Yes. What about Don Blankenship? Who's Don Blankenship, you might ask? He was the CEO of Massey Energy, and he was responsible for the 2010 Upper Big Branch mine explosion that killed 29 coal miners. Shouldn't he be doing time for those deaths? Yes. What about Joe Arpaio, the sheriff in Arizona, who's just a racist, heinous individual who is involved in racial profiling and practices cruel and unusual punishment in his county jail? Shouldn't he be doing time? Yes. What about Ken Thompson? Hey, he's another less known criminal. He was the CEO of Wachovia Corporation, and they were involved in drug money laundering to the tune of billions of dollars. He's not doing time. Or Richard Haste. He's another cop who knocked down the door in New York City and shot another unarmed teenager, Ramarley Graham, in his bathroom under suspicion of having a baggie of marijuana. Shouldn't he be doing time? Yeah. I got just a couple more to go. Luis Posada Carriles, an international terrorist who is involved in shooting down a civilian airplane, a Cuban airplane, with 73 people on board, all of whom were killed. He is walking the streets of Miami today, free as a bird. What about Oliver North, Contragate? Remember him? Yeah. And one more guy I want to tell you about, Lamar McKay, president of BP. Yeah. Shouldn't he be locked up for crimes against the environment? Yeah. All right, so free Bradley Manning. The struggle has just begun.
To go into high school
with this DVD.
That shows
the U.S. military.
Killing civilians
from a helicopter. This video. I can tell you from first-hand experience. Save lives. Because at-risk youth who are preyed on for being recruited. Redacted their decision. Join the military. Because of Bradley Manning. Bradley Manning is a hero. And more than that. We need to all be. Bradley Manning.
Okay, next we have Kathleen from Radical Women.
Yeah, Kathleen. Yeah.
Hi, I'm actually speaking on behalf of Radical Women and the Freedom Socialist Party, and I want to thank Veterans for Peace and other folks that organized this rally. It's really important. There is a global war on dissent, like Devin talked about. It's because the capitalist economic system is floundering and its profits are in danger. It is resorting to more violent methods of plunder and is compelled more than ever to hide its plans and clamp down on dissenters inside and outside the borders. Washington conceals its actions because they increase insecurity, misery, and death as the politicians and the generals send U.S. lives to kill and make war and take lives in other countries. It concocts evidence to justify invading other countries, plots coups against elected governments, strengthens despotic regimes, and lies about its collaborations with corporations that pollute the planet. Its shadowy diplomacy is guided not by any humanistic principle, but by defense of U.S. corporate profit. For instance, Women's E-News reported in December of 2010 that it had conducted a review of WikiLeaks material that was released by Manning to see if there was any concern for women's rights that guided U.S. foreign policy. It noted that there wasn't any mention of the women and children killed in drone attacks in Pakistan and other places. In the case of women in Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, it found nothing about poverty and women and reproductive rights, etc. Obama, in fact, has prosecuted more government whistleblowers than any other president, and the list is growing as he ramps up his war on dissent. Preemptive strikes against troublemakers are common. In May 2012, 9 people were arrested preparing for the anti-NATO demonstrations in Chicago. Most were baseless, while 4 involved cases of entrapment. Civil rights and people's lawyer Lynn Stewart was convicted of material support to terrorism for the high crime of passing a press release to the media for her client. Her original sentence of 28 months was converted to 10 years. At age 72 and fighting cancer, the Federal Bureau of Prisons has just denied her petition for compassionate release. And much of what we know about the reality of U.S. wars comes from the soldiers on the ground in those wars. And what they're doing to Private Manning is an attempt to scare all those soldiers. The U.S. power brokers pulled no stops to keep their secrets about their crimes during Manning's court-martial, and then they were hit in the face with Edward Snowden. His data reveals that the U.S. National Security Agency is spying on everyone, all the time, in every way, everywhere. Even the foreign big shots are miffed at being wiretapped. And Obama's ugly record isn't limited, to wars. You can tell by his positions on labor and reproductive rights. It doesn't do any good to replace a Republican with a Democrat. No. 2 seconds. Sorry. What will make a difference is building a movement that was going for fundamental change, where working people, not corporate profits, are the main interest. It's crucial to protect and defend all the brave truth tellers who are either thinking about coming forward or are currently in court, in prison, or on the run. Without them, much more harm will be done in our name and in secret. The global anti-war movement, the internet freedom activists, independent press, the LGBT movement, and the left have been the mainstays of support for Private Manning and other whistleblowers. We can and should broaden that support to include organized labor, the environmental movement, immigrants, students, people of color, and women's groups. Yeah. Washington's most sacred law, its self-proclaimed right to carry out domestic and foreign policy in total secrecy, can be revoked. A radical, broad-based movement willing to take on the powers that be is the only thing that will free Private Manning and the other truth tellers that we need so much.
Next here's Todd from Veterans for Peace.
You know, the U.S. has attacked many countries since World War II. Korea, we killed 2 million people. Vietnam, another 2 or 3 million people. Cambodia, and then another at least million people in the attacks on Iraq and the people of the Persian Gulf. And so this episode of with Bradley Manning is not the first episode for me. And so I've come to a realization of why I support Bradley Manning. I support Bradley Manning because I do not support the U.S. military. I'm against the U.S. military and I'm against the United States government. And so it's not about something out there. It's not about Bradley Manning anymore. It's about me versus the U.S. government, me versus the U.S. military, and I actually don't support them, and I actually oppose what they're doing, and I think they owe us an apology. I don't think we owe them any loyalty or support. It's not patriotic to support the U.S. military. The U.S. military has broken off from the American people like an iceberg, and they're way out away from supporting the American people because there hasn't been a war that was self-defense since at least World War II. So that's it. Just make it short and sweet.
Okay, here is Linda is going to read something from Dorley, who's right over here.
This is by Mike Hasty, a U.S. Army medic from Vietnam era. The Vietnam War. It's titled "The Only Game in Town." Bradley Manning is sentenced to 35 years in prison and dishonorably discharged from the most dangerous military the world has ever seen. The collateral murder video that Manning revealed to the world is a metaphor of what the U.S. government has done since the genocide of the American Indian. The collateral murder of 504 innocent Vietnamese civilians at My Lai was another metaphor of the most dangerous military the world has ever seen. What most people do not realize is that there were My Lais from the skies that were committed in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos throughout the U.S. bombing campaigns. Firing military rounds into free fire zones is another example of the most dangerous military the world has ever seen. You do not bring the enemy to the peace table by just killing military combatants. You ultimately bring the enemy to the peace table by killing innocent civilians. They are military targets. Bradley Manning is another whistleblower that simply blew people away with the truth about what the most dangerous military in the world does, while the American people continue to be in a coma. Congratulations to Bradley Manning for being dishonorably discharged from the most dangerous military the world has ever seen. And thank you, Mike Hasty.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to march right up the hill to Seattle Central Community College. While we're up there, we happen to go over I-5. We can
Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley now!
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 Free Bradley now! Free Bradley now!
Free Bradley now! Free Bradley now! Free Bradley now! Free Bradley now! Free Bradley!
Free Bradley now! 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 People's Bradley now! Free Bradley now! Free Bradley now! Where this stuff was, Free Bradley now! That's like the whole Free Bradley Manning!
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 Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! What is it supposed to say? What is it? Free Bradley Manning! 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 Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning! Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Free Bradley Manning!
Give a chance. Blow the whistle.
Free Bradley Manning!
A war crime is not a crime.
Free Bradley Manning!
Blow the whistle on war crime. Not a crime.
Blowing whistle on war crimes, not a crime.
Whistle on war crime.
Blowing whistle on war crimes, not a crime.
Blowing the whistle on war crime.
Not a crime.
Blowing the whistle on war crime.
Is not a crime.
Whistle on war crime.
Not a crime.
Blowing the whistle on war crime.
Is not a crime.
Blowing the whistle on war crime.
Not a crime. Is not a crime. Blowing whistles on war crimes is not a crime. Blowing whistles on a war crime. Blowing a whistle on a war crime. Blowing whistle on war crime. Blowing whistle on war crime. Blowing whistles on war crime. Blowing whistle on war crime. Blowing whistle on war crimes. Blowing whistle on war crimes. Blowing.
Oh, they're out of sync. You should turn around.
Did not a crime. Blowing whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime. Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime. It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime. Blowing a whistle on war crime. Blowing a whistle on war crime.
We're in a sign. But there's one problem.
Yeah.
You guys look like idiots.
Hey, fuck you too.
You're really brave, dude.
Well, give us $500. Maybe we can like get uniforms or like feather boas.
I like uniforms.
Okay, idiot.
Anyway, forward, march. Okay, how you doing?
Oh shit, let's quit.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
Did not a crime. Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime.
It's not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime. Blowing a whistle on war crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crimes is not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crime. Not a crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crimes. Blowing a whistle on war crimes.
Blowing a whistle on war crime. Blowing a whistle on war crime.
Blowing a whistle on war crimes. 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 Blowing a whistle on war crimes.
Prosecute war criminals.
Prosecute war criminals, not
Prosecute war crimes,
not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers.
Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers. Prosecute war crimes, not whistleblowers.
Prosecute war crimes.
Not whistleblowers.
Prosecute war crimes.
Not whistleblowers.
Prosecute war crimes.
Prosecute war crimes.
Okay, okay, we made it all up the hill. Here we are. Does anyone want to say anything? Anyone here needs to speak up about himself?
I just want to let everybody know that I am going to pass around a little green notepad that I made a petition to actually address the general who, what's his name again? General Major Buchanan, who does have the power to actually acquit Manning completely, even though he has been sentenced. So if you want to sign that petition, I'm going to pass around this notebook. You need to put your email in it, and I'll email you tonight with that. And you can share it because he's going to make the decision tomorrow. So the more people we can reach, the better. Thanks. Woo!
Okay, anyone else? Next up, don't be shy.
I don't want to say, maybe we should get together and take a group photo.
Maybe we should get together and take a group photo.
Send a copy to Bradley.
Huh?
Send a copy to Bradley.
Send a copy to the Bradley thing.
Good idea.
Yeah. Gathering picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, can you take our picture? Do you got a minute? Great. Okay, come on right over here. Okay, so I'm just going to widen it up.
From the Free Socialist Party.
Here, all you got to do is just kind of hold this video camera and just try to kind of aim it to where people can get most of it.
What we should do after this march. We're here because we're pissed off that a true hero has been punished for spying on the government for
In a minute.
But Private Manning's sentencing shouldn't be the end. It's only the beginning. Out of this action, we have the potential to go forward in our organizing against the wars, against planet-wide surveillance, and to call on future candidates for office to pledge to pardon Private Manning. We need to revitalize the youth war movement that's been dead since like 2004. We need to call on the government call the government out on its imperialist foreign policy and war crimes like Manning did.
Yeah!
We need to cast a no-confidence vote against the Democratic and Republican parties that support the imperialist war machine and keep us locked into a state of perpetual war to justify creeping tyranny. We can do this in the streets, in our organizations, in our workplaces, on the phone with mom and dad, and in the voting booth. We need to organize against the NSA surveillance and it's working with our government's European allies. We need to fight to restore the Bill of Rights by overturning the Patriot Act, the NDAA, the Foreign Surveillance, and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and its amendments. We need to work together to create a broad coalition and struggle against these policies that create and maintain the police state and the security state.
Right.
And to oppose the new forms of control, such as laws about internet usage. Such a coalition could also provide defense of other whistleblowers and the journalists who are brave enough to publish their leaked information. Finally, we need to make pardoning Manning an issue in the 2016 presidential election. We need to call on all candidates running for office to pledge to pardon Private Manning. And we know that the Democratic and Republican Party candidates won't pardon them even if they pledge to. So we need to call on everyone to cast a no-confidence vote against these parties of capitalism by voting for working-class candidates like Shama Sawant, who are not in the pocket of the military-industrial complex. Of course, none of these abuses will stop none of this will stop abuses from happening without the toppling of the capitalist system in America.
Yeah.
Congress has shown its inability to resist money. The military-industrial complex's profits are too powerful. We need to organize now while we still can in order to meet the failings of capitalism head-on and take power into our own hands. Free Bradley.
Yeah. Just talk real
Now, are we doing a photo?
Pepsi would too. In China, they have an old saying that goes something like this. The overlords can burn down a village, but the people can only light the people can't even light a candle. And that's what Bradley has done, is to light a candle to show what's really going on.
Yeah.
And let's look at some of what Bradley has said. He accepted responsibility for many of the leaks he told the court. I felt that I had accomplished something that allowed me to have a clear conscience based on what I had seen and read about and knew what's happening in both Iraq and Afghanistan every day. He explained why he released the classified files. I believe that if the general public had access to the information contained within the Afghan and Iraq war logs, that could spark a domestic debate on the role of the military and our foreign policy in general as it related to Iraq and Afghanistan.
I wish!
Well, that's one part of that. We're going to make sure that happens. Manning was even more shocked at callousness of fellow soldiers who laughed about the deaths of Iraqis. Speaking of the collateral murder video, Manning said they dehumanize the individuals they are engaging and seem not value human life and refer to them as, quote, dead bastards, unquote, and congratulated each other on their ability to kill in large numbers. this is what's going on. This is the reality that they want to cover up. And this is an illegitimate criminal system that considers Bradley's conviction justice. Woo! Woo!
Oh, Sherry, tell us what you really think.
Congratulations, everybody, on making it up the hill. Some of us are a little slower than others. Just a couple of quotes that I think capture this whole Bradley Manning thing. The first one I'm sure you're familiar with. The first casualty in war is the truth. Those of us in Veterans for Peace, having served our country, whether during or after the war, realized that the government, the military were lying to us. And so we were lied about the purpose, about who the enemy was, and whether we could win this war or not. And so whether it's Bush or Obama in Iraq and Iran or Afghanistan, or Johnson and Nixon in Vietnam War, they lied to us about what was going on, and they withheld information from us and the public.
Turn your banner out for a minute there, guys. All right.
The other quote is by Voltaire. It is dangerous to be right on matters on which the established authorities are wrong. This kind of captures where we are with Bradley Manning, Edward Snowden. Before those two, it was Daniel Ellsberg during the Vietnam War that started to expose the lies and the war crimes. And now it's taken Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden to reveal the war crimes and the lies in Iran and Afghanistan. Doing all this in our name and with our money. Bradley Manning did us a great service by exposing the war crimes, the torture, and the corruption. Bradley Manning has done a great service for our democracy. He's a hero, and we should thank him for what he's done. Yeah. And Obama, who doesn't deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, should now pardon Bradley Manning, who really does deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. Free Bradley Manning, pardon Bradley Manning.
Free
Bradley Manning.
Pardon Bradley Manning. Free Bradley Manning. Pardon Bradley Manning. Free Bradley Manning. Pardon Bradley Manning. Free Bradley Manning. Pardon Bradley Manning. Free Bradley Manning. Pardon Bradley Manning. Free Bradley Manning. Pardon Bradley Manning. Free Bradley Manning. All right. Bradley Manning. Free Bradley Manning.
So anybody else?
Yeah. Why? Just keeping it short and sweet. Our country has killed millions of people since World War II. Our country killed 2 million people in the Korean War, at least 3 million people in Cambodia and Vietnam, and at least another people in the Persian Gulf. So if you add it up, that's 6 million people. That's the population of the state of Washington. That's a very large number of people who never attacked America. No Korean ever attacked America. Did they swim over here? They didn't even have a Navy. The Vietnamese didn't have a Navy. Did any Vietnamese ever attack America? Did any Iraqi ever attack America? So why did we kill all these 6 million people? And so who benefited from all these 6 million people that we killed? Who drives by? Who drives by and doesn't care that 6 million people were killed by our country? And the system has not been reformed at all. There's been no reform to the system, and there will be another major war. There will be another major war within 3 to 5 years because the system has not been reformed at all. And it falls to us. It falls to us to stop the next war. That's what this is really about. This is about stopping the next war. It's not about a heckler. It's not some guy who's going to try to disrupt your conversation.
2007 and 2008, I was deployed to Afghanistan in support of OEF-8 with the 173rd Airborne Brigade. While I was there, I served as a combat medic in Chosen Company 3rd Platoon, and I was able to witness war crimes during my deployment. There's a substance called high concentrate white phosphorus. What this does is burn at about 800 degrees. It is superheated gas. It's supposed to be used to obscure troop movements. We used it as a weapon against insurgents. What this weapon does is burns your lungs from the inside out. You are breathing in gas that is 800 degrees. I got to witness the way that these people died through the optic on my rifle. I got to hear them crying for help over the two-way radios that we would use to monitor their chatter. This is business as usual during war.
Thanks for speaking out.
Hello? Hello. I'm starving. I'm gonna go eat. But have a drink. I really appreciate what you said. You know, war is just totally fucked up. And as Voltaire said, if I can butcher the quote, he said, killing people is illegal, but only, or it's legal when you have the sound of trumpets behind you, something like that. It's like, come on.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. I wanted to mention that a number of people in Veterans for Peace Chapter 92 here have a weekly outreach for Bradley Manning for quite some time. What day of the week is that?
It's Saturday afternoons, 2 to 3 p.m. down at Westlake.
Right.
And we have like a sign where we get our cards every Saturday. You know, we move it around, like we did it at a different time and went to F Fest this past week. But the basic thing is weekly, 2 to 3, Westlake, Saturday.
I guess I would just say finally again that it's disappointing. In some ways it feels very disempowering. We're all, we believe strongly in Bradley Manning, and yet he's just been sentenced to 35 years in prison. But I'll tell you what, if we had not been out here in the streets in Seattle and many other cities around the country and around the world, if our Veterans for Peace chapter in London, England, wasn't out in front of the U.S. Embassy as often as it is, supporting both Julian Assange and Bradley Manning, then you might be Bradley Manning might be looking at life in prison without parole right now. So as harsh as a 35-year sentence is, it would be a lot worse if we weren't out here. And if we stay out here and keep on Bradley's side, we can trim that down considerably. As I said earlier, there's going to be ongoing illegal appeals. There's a good chance that some of his convictions will be overturned. There'll be ongoing attempts both in the legal and political arenas to lower his sentence. His lawyer said today that he could be, even with his current sentence, he might be eligible to be considered for parole as early as 7 years from now. So if we keep on pushing really hard on General Buchanan, on President Obama, I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath for Obama to give Bradley a pardon, frankly, but building a strong international movement to press for that pardon can make a difference, and it can shorten Bradley's sentence even further. So we have to keep on standing with Bradley as we continue to oppose these illegal wars, the war on the poor. We have to stand up for the 1%. Several people, you know, there's a number of groups here today, all spoke really, really well, and they're pretty much saying the same thing. So you have a strong basis for working together, for building that coalition, for bringing in more people, for rebuilding the Occupy movement, and making a movement which will put an end to these wars finally. where we put the war criminals in prison instead of people like Bradley Manning.